Chitting potatoes is the first stage in the process of planting, but it isn't essential. What chitting does is give you a head start by allowing the potato to grow sprouts before they are planted. I've had successful crops when I've done this, but also when I've planted straight in the ground. To start the process, all you have to do is leave the potatoes in a cool, light place with the eyes facing up around 6 weeks before you want to plant them. Potatoes vary in terms of planting date depending on whether they are earlies or main crop, so refer to the seed packet for details. I like to plant mine around the end of March through to early April, as once the leaves start to appear the threat of frost should have passed. To do this, I like to plant the potatoes 12 inches apart and leave 20 inches between rows. People plant in different ways, but I find digging a small hole is sufficient and covering with compost or manure. This bed has had organic matter dug in over the winter, so it's full of goodness. Potatoes love manure, so give them as much as you can. It is important to keep your bed weed free in the early stages, but by the end the leaves will be so large to stop any light getting through. When you start to see the leaves, keep covering with compost or manure, and then you can earth up and create long hills. This is where the tubers will actually grow. Potatoes are made up of around 80% of water, so they require lots of watering for a good harvest. 2 to 3 times per week depending on the weather is sufficient. A hose pipe is ideal if you've got one. If not, you'll have to rely on the water button watering can. It's worth saying as well that one year I didn't water the potatoes at all and relied purely on rainwater, and I still got a crop that just wasn't as big, so don't worry too much if you don't water them as much as you can.
So when it comes to harvesting your earlies and your second earlies, there's a couple of differences with the mains. So the flowers, in fact, are a sign that you can actually harvest them now. You don't have to wait till the foliage dies down. So you've got the flowers on the main where it's a sign to step up your watering, but flowers on the earlies and second earlies are a sign that you can actually harvest the potatoes. Now it's always worth just scratching around under the soil just to make sure you've got potatoes that are big enough for you. There'll only be sort of smaller new potatoes or baby potatoes, so it's always worth just having a little check, but generally speaking when the earlies start to flower, that's a sign you can harvest.
And using a sharp knife, don't forget to cut up and compost the waste. Chances are you've heard of blight, and potatoes are very prone to it, and if left can infect your whole crop of potatoes and leave you with unedible tubers. I've made a separate video on this, on recognising and dealing with blight, so feel free to check that out at the end of this video. Harvesting your potatoes is one of the highlights of the gardening calendar. To harvest, gently prise a fork on the outside of the hill and lift. You should see the fruits of your labour, and you can get in with your hands and pick them out from then on. To store, you can store potatoes in a dark, dry place in a hessian sack, and they can be used all throughout the winter and well into the spring. It's worth occasionally checking though for any signs of rot or damp, as this will quickly spread throughout the entire crop. Hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to check out the rest of my channel.